Hello again and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse and I am back for day 3 here of the 2020 year in review, wrap up, recap, whatever the heck you want to call it. And we are back in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection. This time we are going to kick back and observe some Hyperstone Heist for the Sega Genesis. Kind of a weird remix of Turtles in Time, the arcade game, and its own weird kind of stuff. So yeah, you have that on in the background. Today we are going to be focusing on accessible games, PC, console, mobile, whatever. Um, so let's just jump in. The first one that I have listed here, Palabra Cadabra. I remember seeing this on my video list because I look back at the videos that I did this year to even remember some of this stuff. And I gotta admit, I don't really remember what this game was, but I remember it being okay. It was a mobile game. I don't really remember it too well, but I remember liking what I played of it. I wish I could remember more, but like I said, I'm doing all these game videos all in one stretch here. So I've got like 1,800 games on my mind, and I just can't remember the details of all of them because we're probably literally talking about like a couple hundred games here this morning. Um, but yeah, Palabra Cadabra, and then we have things like Hearthstone Access. Boy, this one's been a roller coaster. Hearthstone Access, man, that was a really neat thing. Guy Dev, huge shout out to him. He made a mod that made Hearthstone playable to blind players, but the problem with it was every time Hearthstone updated, he had to refix the app or refix the mod because it would always break. And so that is a really, really unfortunate thing. But he kept doing it until about late October, early November, and it finally just got too much for him. And he said, I've got so much other stuff going on. I can't keep up with it. I'm doing this in my own spare time. It's not something again, this is something that this guy was not charging for. He was doing it basically because he loved doing it and the kindness of his, from his heart. Um, and he just, like I said, I totally get it. But he said that, after a certain update, it was not going to be kept up anymore. And I know a lot of people were crushed. Like, again, this is a game that I would have absolutely played a ton more because like when I played it and I streamed it and I played it a little bit afterwards even, I loved it. I mean, it made this card battling game not only accessible but really intuitively playable. I mean, it was just done like he redid the tutorial even for text to speech users. It was just phenomenally done. Um, but again, when you have a day job, when you have a YouTube channel, you're streaming for part of the year, you've got extra like consulting gigs, yeah, and then just all the stuff that you want to kick back and do and keep up with. Like if I was only able to play totally blind accessible games, I'm sure I would have played a ton more of this. But again, because I'm playing more low vision games and stuff and keeping up with that whole spiel too, Hearthstone was just one of those games that I wanted to devote more time to, but just especially with the mod kept breaking and everything, and I would have to keep updating it. And I just never, after playing it for a while, I just never got around to getting back into it. But the good news is that after Guy Dev announced that he was stepping down, um, some other people are taking it upon themselves to kind of do an intermediary thing. And I guess the game is currently still accessible even after their latest updates. They are basically keeping the development of it alive until, and this is the good news, is that supposedly Blizzard is actually going to be I don't know when, um, but they are going to try to natively implement accessibility into Hearthstone so that we don't need mods and we will just be able to play with the screen reader. And I'm hoping that they will literally takes a lot of what Guide Dev maybe did, both for the tutorial and overall gameplay, and not only to make the core game, but a lot of the other modes that originally weren't accessible, make them accessible. Um, so there's hope that this ongoing kind of a live service type of game that a lot of blind players have really gotten to enjoy, that Hearthstone accessibility will continue in the future. I really, really hope so. Because I would not be opposed. Like I would love to get back into it when I get a chance again. And if it were just native where I could just fire up the game and just expect it to work, that'd be fantastic. I would love to do that. One other mod that I forgot to write down, but I do want to mention, and again, God, I want to devote more time to this because Stardew Valley, Stardew Access also had a mod, and this is still being updated. I played Stardew Valley when it first came out several years ago, and I did it visually. I mean, this it's like a farming simulation like Harvest Moon, if you've heard of those series. I did a video of it back in the day. It is a really relaxing but really addictive game, and it's a time suck. It just like you could play it for hours. I've played Harvest Moon for hours. I've played Stardew Valley for hours. And again, I'm kind of waiting for the Hearth or the Stardew Access to kind of simmer down a little bit, and like after it's really been polished and updated even more. I want to do a video. I have not done a video on Stardew Access yet, and I do want to at some point. And right now I'm kind of waiting until basically when I get my new rig, then I know I'll have it hopefully for a few years and I can install all the mods and get everything set up and do what I need to do. But yeah, Stardew Valley, they're making that game blind playable, and it is, like I said, you wouldn't think a farming simulation would be that exciting or that fun. Oh, trust me, it is very addictive. Yeah, Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon, both very addictive, and it's really cool. I love the fact that blind players are starting to get more than your typical simple audio games or fighting games. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but it's good that we're getting RPGs, we're getting card games, we're getting um, farming simulators now. So, and it's part farming simulation, part like social game because you're networking with everybody in the town and you're trying to potentially find a spouse to get married and raise kids and grow your life together and everything. It's just a really neat game. But I love the fact that blind players are getting to branch out more in what they're able to play because game accessibility is finally kind of starting to happen more mainstream. Speaking of mods, I can't not mention the Toby accessibility mod for Doom 2. Shout out to Mr. Alan D1. I have been working with him on this now for the past few years. I know I remember starting to work on it with when Riley was up here. I don't know if she ever got a chance to play it because right back then it was still kind of in the rough state where you really wanted to use God mode because some of the stuff really wasn't super implemented yet. But yeah, like I said, every time I think of this game and every time I think of this mod, I'm like, man, I know you're not up here right now. I know you. I talked to her um, on text message not terribly long ago, and I know she said that she got some sort of a laptop or something now. But so I don't know where she is in like learning how to use it and everything. But both of us, how we really like Doom and Left 4 Dead and things like that, and it's like I don't know. I know her Access for Gamers account has been pretty dormant for a while. I don't think she's really been using that at all. So I don't even know if she's really doing any. game accessibility stuff anymore. I don't know, but man, like I have to kind of jokingly say, man, you picked a bad time to stop doing it because just as you're probably if you did leave, there is so many things happening in game accessibility. It's so amazing. Like it's just, and I really hope that you do get a chance to really play the Toby accessibility mod because he's still working on there. I know of a few things. I'm not going to mention quite yet here, but I know he's still working on a few other improvements to the game, like navigation and audio cues and stuff like that to make it easy to make it more clear for people. But like just the fact that we're making this 29-year-old game now. Doom had its literally had its 29th birthday the other day, like I think it was yesterday or the day before, and as I'm recording this, and yeah, it is just um like I said, Doom is one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of all time. And the fact that blind players are starting to be able to play it, I know that some people have had a more trouble than others, just kind of wrapping their head around. These are labyrinthian levels, and they're meant to be that way, you know. But and it's having played through the first couple episodes of levels based on Doom 1 and 2 blindfolded, or it's hard. It is definitely harder to play those with no vision than it is even with low vision. But it is doable. You just really have to figure out your own techniques for doing it. But we have so many levels now. We have the original 20 from the Toby Deluxe map pack, and we have a Toby Deluxe map pack 2, which are, I think, what do you say, like 18 levels based on Doom 2. And I did a video for a few of those levels, but I have not done a blindfolded play of the Doom 2 content just because I really have taken a break from streaming the last part of this year. But again, the Toby accessibility mod, extremely proud, I'm extremely happy about that. Um, just such an awesome project. I'm so glad. Um, Theory Driver, this I got to admit was pretty disappointing. I love the idea of it, but the it's I don't know if it's the same company as some of these other games, but they use the same engine, and the gameplay in them is just not that engaging. It just feels kind of clunky, and like I kind of want to see where the story goes, but I don't really enjoy the gameplay all that much, to be honest with you. I did a video for it. You can check that out, but I think it's available on, I think I did the PC version. I think it might be on mobile too, but I don't remember. But yeah, Fury Driver, I wanted to like it. I just didn't care for it as much. I did check out, I know it wasn't released this year, but Audio Wizards for PC. I covered the iOS version a while back, but I figured, you know what? I found it on sale. Yeah, let's support the developer and let's get the PC version as well. And I think I actually find the PC version even a little bit easier to play because your input can be really more specific. Like with the arrow keys, it can be really specific on like what arrow key you're hitting. So just a fun little kind of like an arcade, almost like a tower defense sort of a thing. Very nice little game there. Audio Wizards. Um, Dungeons and such. This one I got recommended by one or two comments from people, and yeah, I actually really kind of enjoyed this one. There's been a few games that I've played here this year that are kind of the iOS dungeon crawler type of thing. You're on like a grid, or you're kind of going through like a dungeon of some sort. You're fighting monsters and leveling and going back and getting your loot upgraded and just all kinds of stuff. And I've played a few, like I said, a few different iterations, a few different takes on that this year so far. And yeah, Dungeons and Such is actually one that's pretty good. And I didn't list it on here because it didn't come out this year, but man, I have to commend, and I really do need to mention. Sortie Quest, because this developer has just gone above and beyond. I mean, the way this guy is just updating his game like crazy. I mean, there's stuff in there that I haven't even found yet, or that I haven't even gotten to yet. You have at least like three different worlds now. Like I'm currently trying to grind through all these dragons so I can unlock this other realm or whatever, but these dragons just take forever to kill. Um, Although has become a little bit easier, a little bit with some of the recent updates. But I mean, he's added new like mechanics, new zones, new just so many things, and it's all accessible. You know, you can play it visually, you can play it with voiceover, um, and it is just it's so deep. You know, you've got your I like your little like your little harvesting mini game, your little match three kind of a deal. You've got your turn-based combat, you've got your exploration, your quests, your gear. There's just so much going on with it. It's just such a well-made and constantly updated game. And again, just I have to shout out to that developer because he's doing such a great job with that game. Audio Duel, just another little simple iOS game that was, yeah, you know, it's fairly simple, but you know, it's a interesting little pastime. I figured I'd mention it in there because I had checked it out this year. Not a lot else to say about it. Adventure to Fate. There's been the Battle Arena, Future Arena. There's been a few of these now. And this is another one of those dungeon crawler things that are pretty fun, actually. Again, there's a bit of depth to it. Um, and I've played it off and on throughout the year. It is definitely has its challenge. But yeah, it's just another little accessible dungeon crawler for iOS that is also pretty good. And oh, I'm trying to remember. I didn't write it down here. Oh, there's another one where it's like a little city building sim that I've been. I mean, like I said, there's really not any real huge gameplay to it. You're basically clicking things to make bars get bigger, or to like, oh, you made this many things, or oh, you've made 10 out of 20 of these, or I can see it in my head. Like I said, I literally checked into it like a day or two ago, and I can't think of what the heck it was called. But I did do a video on it. So again, like there's city building games out there. Um, Dear Reader, this was one that was kind of neat, but a little tricky. It's a game based on reading, and you're reading passages from like public domain books and things like that, where there's different types of passages or mini games where it's like, oh, you need to put these words in the right order to fill in the blanks, or I can't even remember, but there's like I think I've unlocked three or four different types of mini games, and there's more than I need to unlock. But it's a interesting like reading. It's an interesting way to read some of these older books, and I have some interactivity to them. The problem that I really have with it is that the books themselves, for the most part, I haven't found one that really hooked me. You know, I started tinkering around with Alice in Wonderland and I think one or two other ones. They gave you Pride and Prejudice to start with, like for free, but ugh, I just have no interest in that book really at all. And that's kind of the problem is that like you know some of the content, you know, if you don't like reading those types of books, you're not really going to find it as interesting. You know, and especially some of the way they wrote back then, where I wouldn't call it like old English, but it was, you know, it was written. People wrote differently back then, and so like especially trying to figure out some of these words and stuff. It's just it doesn't click with me as much as it would if there were books. Like it'd be cool if it would just be able to figure out words or whatever and figure out puzzles based on like, oh, let me import a PDF book or a Kindle book or well, probably not a Kindle because those are copy protected, but like an EPUB or a DAISY or something, and then you could do it with something that you would want to read more. But yeah, Dear Reader, it was a neat little interesting experiment. To the Dragon Cave, that was a short little audio game. And yeah, to the Dragon Cave, I enjoyed it. It was not really much different. Like I've played very similar audio games, so it wasn't really anything super new. But the story was okay. The gameplay was solid for what it was, and I think I played through it in one sitting. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just a pretty straightforward little audio game, and I rather enjoyed it. Evidence 111, that is another game that I don't think I've unlocked the video for it yet. But I have played it. It is another kind of a shorter audio game, but the neat thing about this one is that there's a lot of different branching paths, so it seems like there's some replayability. You're kind of figuring out this mystery in this hotel, and I'm not going to spoil anything of it. I but it's a really neat kind of a mystery, kind of who done it or what's happening kind of a game. Um, I've only played it once so far, but I do kind of want to, especially knowing how it ended and knowing some of the paths that I didn't go down. I do kind of want to see if or how much things drastically change for different playthroughs. So yeah, Evidence 111 is actually pretty good. Um, Kilta. This is a PC game, and it's kind of your like a turn-based battler type of deal. Again, not really the kind of games that I'm typically into, but I think it played well enough. And, when I was playing, and I think a lot of these games that these turn-based or RPGs and things, I think what I'm realizing is what turned me off to them is just the number or the amount of text that is in these games that you've had to read and just having to read small print for so long. It just got tedious. It just got tiring. And so having these types of games that use text to speech makes that aspect of these games much easier and much more pleasurable to play. And so I've found myself playing a few more of these types of games and even seeing a few of them through to the end. And so I haven't gotten too far into Kilta, but yeah, this one was actually fairly pretty solid. Had to get some more water, guys. I've been doing a lot of chatting, and we're not even halfway done yet, or we're about halfway done with the week yet. As Dusk Falls. Ooh, this is a good one. Kind of a Telltale choose your own adventure style game. It's not made by Telltale, but man, the story in it is just so good. This is not a blind game. I mean, it's a blind accessible game, but it's not an audio game. It is a mainstream game for PC and Xbox. And like I said, the story, the branching paths, the characters. I really like the dad in this game. You're playing through like this family that gets taken hostage. You're playing through the perspective of him, but then you're kind of going through like these three brothers that are trying to commit this crime, and things go horribly wrong. And it's just a really, really cool, well done story. You have dialogue choices. The game is mainly dialogue choices and QuickTime events. And normally, as I've said before, I hate QuickTime events. These are accessible. They read aloud via text to speech what you're supposed to do. And like I said when I did the video, when I played through this game originally, I don't think I failed a single QuickTime event because they were accessible. And I guarantee you that's never happened before on any game before. I always fail QuickTime events quite frequently. So no, as Dusk Falls, you can get it on Game Pass. Um, you can get it on Steam. Highly, highly recommend this game. It is really, really good. Like the story alone is great. Oh, he actually died. That's interesting. Is he gonna? Are you literally not gonna continue? Huh? The AI died. Wow. Um. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm just trying to see what the game is doing here. I did not expect that to happen because we're just watching the you can set the game to autoplay, so you can kind of see the playthrough of these games. We'll just see if it starts again. Otherwise, I'll restart the game and we'll continue. But so yeah, As Dusk Falls, highly recommended. It's really, really good. Pitch Black: A Dusk Light Story. Yeah. The part that they released, the chapter 1, was quite short. I think I had trouble with one or two little sections, but I think I beat it in like under an hour. The audio production was great. I want to see where the story goes, but like I said, there just was not a lot there substantially. And the gameplay was it was okay, but it wasn't really a ton there. I could think of some neat ideas on what they maybe could do in future chapters, and I did kind of outline some of that stuff in the video that I did for the game, and they have watched it. I know I think they messaged me on Twitter or something. So I've talked to the developers a couple of times throughout the process. Hell, I think Riley and I actually did a interview with them early in their development when A4G was still a thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I really do. I really wish them well, and I hope they're able to have enough funding to continue the game. I hope that, again, people are mean. People, if they don't like something, they just shred it apart and, insult people and, wish death threats on developers and stuff. And there's no reason for that. That is just uncalled for. But, constructive, fair criticism is fine. Constructive feedback, likes, dislikes, recommendations, suggestions, that's great. Do it. And yeah, this game is totally. Let me just restart it here because yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if that was a fluke or if they didn't realize that. But yeah, when you autoplay the Hyperstone heist, it was hard enough where the AI failed at itself. Or I don't know what was wrong with that. But yeah, okay, well, here we go. Hyperstone heist take 2. Um but yeah, I mean, I really want that game because it's clear they're putting a lot of love and effort into it. Um, and I really want to see it succeed. But again, this is where you're making a game and you're targeting it toward blind players, which I've talked about this endless number of times, but like it's a limited market to begin with, and then you have, people may or may not hear about it. People may or may not have the devices to play it. And then you have a lot of the blind audience again asking for coupon codes and not really willing to pay for anything. It's really, really hard being a developer targeting things toward blind people specifically because you might be able, if you're lucky, you might be able to get a game or two out, but I, almost every developer that I can think of has eventually had to stop. they've either gotten shut down, they've either just not made enough money and had to quit. Um, it's just, I mean, I hate to say it, but unless you have like you're independently wealthy and can just do it for the love of doing it, if you're wanting to support yourself as a game developer developing for this market, it's tough. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen for the future of Pitch Black, but yeah, I really hope that they're able to figure it out and have it work out for them. Grim Tide. I know the name. I know I did a video for the game. That's where I got this when I wrote it down. And I knew what it was earlier, but for some reason I'm drawing a complete blank. I want to say this might be a dungeon crawler, but I don't remember. Um, but Grim Tide is another accessible game that I do remember liking a fair bit. Um, but like I said, I'm literally trying to think of hundreds of games while recording these videos, and this one is just not coming to mind. So I do want to shout it out. I do want to give it some attention because I remember it being pretty good, but I just can't remember what it is right now. Lost and Hound. This is another one that I was really looking forward to, and it's pretty neat. This is a PC game right now, and you can play it visually, you can play it audibly, and actually, even visually, he's trying to make you play it audibly because you play as a dog, and you are tasked with different missions, and you're helping people. So maybe you're helping locate somebody, like a lost kid in the woods. You're helping a rescue party in a mountain blizzard. You're sniffing out illegal items in an airport. Um, God, what other things have you done? Just all kinds of different things. There's another one where you're in like a desert thing or something. Um, just a really cool, just kind of a service helper type animal. And you're using the mechanic is you're using scent to track things, but your scent is represented audibly. And so you're trying to find trails or sniff out and try to find like items and then go in that direction. There's a couple of different mechanics working there. And yeah, I have not fully finished it. I'm probably a good 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. So I really just need to set aside some time and play through the rest of it because I do got to do a little bit of more grinding. You get these side missions that you can do to earn some extra money, so that you can unlock new missions. And I think I'm at the point where I need to do that a little bit more. And I think I have either like one or two missions left. So I do want to finish this game. I've done a little bit of work, nothing super official, but I know the developer and I have chatted quite a bit over email and social media and things. And so I've given him a few ideas and tried to help him out a little bit here. And no, it's a really neat game, and like I said, it's something totally different. It's something different that blind players are able to play. Lost and Hound. Oh, and then we get to the biggin, The Last of Us Part One. Yes, we got The Last of Us 2, and now we have The Last of Us Part One. It has been remastered for the PS5, and boy, howdy, is it a goodin'. Um, Not only did they have everything that The Last of Us 2 had, but they've added audio description for the cutscenes. They've tweaked a few accessibility features here and there, and they've even added things for other disabilities. Like the one that fascinates me still is the haptic dialogue, where they're using the controller's force feedback to convey like how someone's talking, their inflection. Um, so you can kind of get an idea of like, oh, this person seems really he's whispering or they're angry or whatever. I never would have thought of using it that way, but when you think about it, when you combine that with captions and subtitles, it makes a heck of a lot of sense. So this is really, and I will shout out, I will talk a little bit more about God of War Ragnarok too, but this is what I would have voted for. This is what I voted for the Game Awards. Like, yes, God of War was fantastic, but I still had some trouble with God of War. I played through the entire story of The Last of Us Part 1 in like a day and a half because it worked so fluidly. The traversal, the navigation assist, some of the things that I didn't have when I played the original PS3 version. It's just like I remember playing, and that was really interesting because when I played The Last of Us 2, I played the accessible version, of course, right off the bat because that's when it came out and it had those things. I played The Last of Us Part 1 with my vision on the PS3. And then I still remember playing through it, and it took me a lot longer because there were things that I just visually missed with the details of the environment and everything, figuring out what I was supposed to do, where I was supposed to go for puzzles or for traversal things. And I just had no trouble with any of that this time, really. And like I said, just being sucked into the story again, I played through it really quickly. Um, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And in March of 2023, I know I'll talk about this on day 5 here, but for people who don't have a PS5 and want to play The Last of Us Part 1, it is coming to the PC. But what I will say, and just as a reminder here, and if I forget to mention it in the later video, um, you're probably going to need a fairly modern PC. Like if you got a PC that's like mine right now, that's like 7 years old, you may not need to get a PS5, but you may need to get a new gaming rig because this is to run the actual game. They're gonna be pushing it to meet your PS5 level fidelity, audio and visual standards, and so you're probably gonna need they don't. I looked on Steam and they don't have specific. It just says TBA for system requirements, but I would hazard a guess to say you're probably gonna need more than what I have right now. And so if you're running on you've been just playing audio games and like, blind specific games, as more mainstream games become accessible, that's one thing you're going to have to consider. If you're doing that on PC, you're going to probably require at least, not a super high end machine, but you're going to need a middle of the road um, machine to make that run well. So just a potential word of caution there. But yes, The Last of Us Part 2, definitely my accessible game of the year. Just and As Dusk Falls is a close second for me because both of those were just phenomenal. Loved them. The Bard's Tale. That was actually a pretty good game. I really enjoyed playing that. That is a text to speech voiceover accessible game. The Bard's Tale. I found that to work pretty well. Um, It's not out yet, but I had to mention the demo here because what the developer is really trying to do and really pushing for accessibility. Um, Stories of Blossom. I did a demo for one of the Steam Next Fests. It is a game geared at younger kids, but it is like a hand-drawn storybook type of game, and it's really good. I mean, it is very, very accessible. It's kind of like your point and click adventure type of deal. You walk through these environments and it's just like a simple like little kids like fairy tale story. Um but yeah, it is like I said, I think it's great that we're getting these types of games you can play visually or you can, your sighted and blind kids can play together. So I'll buy it. I'll play through it. I'll support the developer. I mean, yeah, is it going to be my most engaging story of the year as an adult? No, probably not. But like I said, I'm glad they're doing it. Um, and I want to support that. War Sim. Boy, this is another one that I need a lot more time to be able to dig into this one. A couple people recommended this to me. Ryan recommended this one to me. And this is a PC accessible game, screen reader accessible, or text to speech accessible. It is just a dump of text. You're going out on missions. You're basically ruler of the kingdom. You have to make decisions who's on your staff, what things you're going to do, how you're going to handle like people come to you and like you have to make decisions about like how the day-to-day of your kingdom is going to run, whether you're going to do it or whether you're going to hire someone to do it. You have this kind of impending war coming in a while that you have to prepare for. You go out in the world and you encounter like different clans or events. I mean, I was gonna do, I did my spotlight video for it, and I thought, oh, I'll do this for like a half an hour or so, and just getting through like one sea, or was it like they break things up by, was it day or no? I think it was by season or something. I don't remember what but they broke it out. They broke it up into like chunks of time, and just getting through that one chunk, like and I rushed through and didn't even consider things. But if you want a deep, deep game, something like, I kind of compared it to Civilization or something like that. But um, this one will keep you busy. In order for me to play that, I would have to set aside hours and hours of my time. So I don't know if and when I will get around to it again. But if you're looking for a PC game with a lot of depth and replayability and variety, yes, it's not like a Twitch action type of game, but if you want a, good decision making game and whatever, yeah, that game will do it for you. War Sim will do it for you. Oh yeah, accessible Sudoku. I covered that. This guy has made a lot of little games for iOS that have been really good. They're both very low vision friendly and voiceover accessible. So he's done just some really nice. I mean, they're very clear. They're a little your classic, like more your classic style games, more straightforward games. But again, sometimes that's exactly what I want. Maybe I want to play a little bit of Battleship, or maybe I want to play Sudoku or something like that. Minesweeper, those kinds of things. But yeah, very low vision friendly, very voiceover friendly. If you've ever wanted to play Sudoku, now you can. And finally, the last one that I have listed here was one that the developer actually reached out to me for. And this is another one that's designed more for little, for younger kids. Um, but it's called Ploppy Pairs, and it's you're trying to kind of matching game where you have rows and columns of cards, and you need to match pairs of them up. Again, think of your like Super Mario Brothers 3 bonus game where you were matching cards to earn items and extra lives and stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is a good way to introduce younger kids both to like memory and like learning iOS and Explore by Touch and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I got the developer reached out to me and gave me a key for it, and yeah, I was like, yeah, let me cover this on the channel for you, get some word out there for you, and hopefully some blind and especially younger gamers will be able to enjoy that. So um, that's really, I know I've probably missed a few, um, but there's been a pretty good mixture this year of mainstream and games that are developed specifically for blind users. I like the fact that we're getting more PC and console games that are both visual and um, blind accessible, because you have a much better chance of staying in business and being able to support the games for longer. Because, like I said, like it or not, sighted players, they are, and not just for gaming, it's just, I really find it fascinating how we have five senses, but like your general non-disabled, fully sighted person, um, they rely so heavily on sight, almost at the expense of the other senses. And you take that one sense away, and they're lost. It's really weird. And when it comes to games, it's like at most they'll play an audio game for novelty, or to maybe, I don't know, empathize with blind players, or let me see what it's like to be a blind person, which, okay, whatever. But at most, it's a novelty. Like, I don't see sighted players going out of their way to play audio only games. Like, there literally has to be a visual for them to play it for long term. So, and I wish that were different, because, there's been a lot more acceptance now. Everybody listens to podcasts. A lot of people listen to audiobooks through Audible or their local library. And if they're able to listen to a story or an audiobook, why couldn't they play an audio game? An audio game should just be, it shouldn't be, an audio game shouldn't be pigeonholed toward blindness. Yes, a blind user would be a prime audience for that game, but an audio game should just be another genre, like an adventure game, a shooter, a puzzle game, a racing game. It's just that sighted people are just not open to it. They're not generally receptive to it. So I just find it really interesting, and I don't know if or how you can even make that change. I don't think it's really going to happen. But like I said, the better news is that we're getting more mainstream games that blind people can play, and that's good both for the companies, but it's also good for us, because now, we're off in our own little world playing, our blindy games, which are fun. Excuse me a second, I gotta get one more drink here. They're fun, but we're off in our own little world. And look at how huge the game industry is overall. And if we can't be part of the same conversations, we want to be talking about God of War. We want to be talking about The Last of Us, or Assassin's Creed, or Zelda, or Mario, or whatever. Oh, that's another thing. I do need to talk about God of War really quick, because I mentioned it during The Last of Us, but I said I was going to talk about it again. But let me finish my thought here. It's that we can finally be not only part of the conversation, but hopefully, if we get some multiplayer games to be accessible, we can even be part of the mainstream gameplay. So to wrap things up here, I do want to mention God of War Ragnarok, because it did win the Innovation and Accessibility category for um, the Game Awards, and we don't know until January. The Game Accessibility Conference is also having their own awards. Um, but I like the way they're doing it, because they're doing it in January. I think Jeff Keighley does his a little bit too soon, because the cutoff date is like mid-November, and this year especially, there's been a fair few games coming out in December that would not be, even late November, that aren't eligible for the Game Awards. So to me, it almost makes more sense to do it in January, where it's like, oh, I want to have all the games in 2022 eligible. I don't know. But God of War, when I started it, it was really good. And it still is. Like, I love the story. Um, and the characters are all really good. Like, Kratos, he doesn't really say too much. Atreus, yeah, he's kind of middle of the road, but I like a lot of the side characters. I especially like Brock and what's the other guy? I can't remember the other guy's name, but the two store guys. I like those. I get a kick out of him or them. Freya. So the story is interesting. The gameplay is good. Like the combat is fun. Um, but you take again The Last of Us 1 and 2. They borrowed some of the sound effects and even some of the ideas, which is totally fine. They're all Sony first party titles. Um, but the God of War Ragnarok, there are still, it's a little bit of a different game. You have The Last of Us is really focused on stealth and gunplay, and there's a lot more puzzles and then more melee combat in God of War. The combat I really don't have much of a problem with. I do okay there. But the traversal and the puzzles is where I'm having the most trouble. Originally, I wasn't, like in the beginning, I wasn't doing too badly. And what are you doing over there, Turtle? He was just like jumping around. What are you doing? Oh, is this where he just keeps going in the damn manhole? Or what are you, no, what are you doing, dude? Whatever. Um, so like I said, I have a lot of trouble in some of the puzzles. That's where I've struggled the most. And a lot of it is where you're using you have so many things to consider. You have your axe, your blades, your special abilities. Then you got um, usually you're walking around with an ally, so you got your partner's abilities like Atreus. You got his arrows, and you got different types of arrows. I'm running around with another character right now, and they have different abilities, and just some of the different types of puzzles are kind of like they're a little finicky, and like the assists in there, like sometimes I'm not exactly sure. Again, the environments are so detailed that I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Like think I have kind of a rough idea, but there's so much graphic detail that I visually have a little bit of trouble. And I know that some people have gotten some sighted assistance in some areas. I don't know if any, like, I know there's some totally blind players who have completed the game. I don't know if anyone has done it though completely independently. I think, and you can let me know if I'm wrong. Yeah, they died again. Interesting. Um, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of them may have gotten at least a little bit of sighted assistance here and there because there are certain things that are not really easily accessible or that require a ton of trial and error to get right. And that's why, as good as God of War is, I mean, like Ragnarok has got some great accessibility features. And they've got like blind accessibility, control remapping, they've got a high contrast mode, they've got all kinds of things. Um, but that's why I still vote for The Last of Us 1 because I literally, like, if I were totally blind, I would not have had some of the troubles that I did. Even as, like I said, I have some vision and I still had problems in some aspects of God of War Ragnarok. So again, as much as I really enjoyed the game, their navigation system is a little bit different. There's not as much detail in it as The Last of Us 1 and 2. Like that one, those games, you really had each little piece of a waypoint. You would go like, jump over the car, climb up the window, go through the building, duck through a broken wall, climb up a ladder. And the navigation in God of War is a little bit more vague. So it's like, here's your objective, and it may not point you to exactly what you need to do. You may have to go around something, or like I could see blind players still running into things a lot more. Um, and sometimes, like for puzzle, there was a puzzle when I was out on the boat where it was like, oh, it kept pointing me to this one area that was just a blocked wall, and it would not point me to anywhere else. I literally used my vision and sailed the boat around a little bit and found a beach that was nearby, docked, and then I walked around this beach area. Oh, there's some things I got to hit with my axe up here. There's some other things I got to do. And then miraculously, that wall that it kept leading me to that was blank or that was blocked was now open. So like me, I was able to figure my way around it. But if you were blind, you wouldn't have any idea what the hell you were supposed to do. And it's things like that where, like I said, I commend them for all the excellent work they did. And in a lot of ways, they said the award is well deserved. Um, but again, I would still personally put The Last of Us ahead just because you didn't really seem to have, at least I certainly didn't. I didn't have near any of the issues that I'm still sort of having. I have not finished God of War Ragnarok yet. I want to, and I hope I will sometime early next year. But I'm kind of waiting to see just if and what other maybe fixes or accessibility tweaks they can do for some of the navigation and puzzles. So that is where we will wrap it up. I still find it interesting that the playthrough, it's supposed to let you, it's supposed to be like, hey, let's play through the entire game, and you can watch it and watch the full game through. But Hyperstone Heist is actually broken. Like they die. That is really interesting, and it happened twice. So, I'm gonna have to check into that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. I know people. This is the one that people will probably be the most interested in, just because it talks about the blind accessible stuff. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely try to watch the other videos in the series too. Um, Give it a like him if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally cited, illegally cited.com, and right here on YouTube. So until next time, I will chat with everyone again later in part 4.